Well, what is the difference between surrender and still clinging on to elements of our own little self-effort? In recovery, we talk about the importance of truly surrendering to the process, that we're powerless to control our tendency to do the wrong thing. Yet there still can be times where maybe we still hold on to little bits of us trying to do it under our own strength. Today, I want to talk a little bit about what that looks like and maybe some of the lies that we fall into in those places.
Recovery can be hard, but it's worth it. There is hope knowing we can find healing one step at a time with Jesus and healthy community. Whether you're struggling with a hurt or a hang-up or a habit, you're not alone. During this podcast, we share real stories, practical tools, and powerful truths that inspire you to keep moving forward. No matter where you are on your journey, there's hope ahead. So stick with us as we walk this path together through Celebrate Recovery.
Well, welcome back to Hope in Recovery, a Fellowship Celebrate Recovery podcast where we talk life change stories and recovery conversations to keep us moving down our road to healing and hope as we walk this incredible, crazy journey of recovery together closer to Jesus. And super grateful for this time that we have in these conversations, and hope and pray that they're beneficial to you. And if you've ever have an idea for a podcast, a conversation that you want us to have, please shoot us a note, drop us a line at cr@fellowshipnwa.org. We'd love to hear your feedback, love to hear if this is impacting you, I'd love to hear any ideas that you might have, but grateful for you joining us today. I want to introduce myself. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus. I struggle with anxiety and depression, sexual addiction, and grief, and my name is Andy, and I've got the great privilege of being able to help be a part of Celebrate Recovery at Fellowship Fayetteville, and grateful for the work that God is doing all across Celebrate Recovery here at Fellowship Bible Church of Northwest Arkansas in Fayetteville, Rogers, Bentonville, and the incredible things that God is doing, not just at Fellowship through CR, but also regionally and worldwide. It's amazing, amazing to watch us walk from hopelessness to hope in Jesus. Today, I'm excited for this conversation. You know, this past week, I was kind of struck by this difference between what does surrender look like in my heart versus when does it feel like I am hanging on to my own bits of self-effort. And this idea kind of hit me because there's been something kind of going on in my own personal life that's been happening that kind of opened my eyes to like, oh man, I think I think the Lord's trying to use this to teach me a little bit about my own recovery journey. But what happened is about 2 weeks ago, I was sitting at home. I was kind of watching TV. It was in the middle of the day, and I looked over towards the kitchen because I thought I heard something. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw something crawling down the wall in our house, and it wasn't a mouse. It was a lot larger. It was a large rodent. It was a rat that had been living in our walls, and I saw it crawling down our wall, and then it scurried across the kitchen into where our dog food is held. And it kind of rattled me for a second there. I'm like, oh my gosh, like that thing is massive. For a second, I was like, is that a squirrel? Like, what is that? And as I saw it and realized what it was, there was this thing that came over me as a homeowner and as a man and as a dad. I know I'm being ridiculous here, but there's a real thing that came into me like, no, this thing does not belong in my house. And I got on the phone with my wife and I'm like, you have no idea. I just saw this rat in our house. And so I went on this quest to go to Walmart, get glue boards and get traps. And like, I am going to catch this thing. You know, we've had mice before in our house, and you know, in the house that I had growing up, every now and then we'd get some mice in the basement and stuff like that. And so I'm no stranger to having to hunt down pests in my own home. And I thought to myself, okay, this is no different than that. And so here we go. Let's get this thing. And so I baited all the traps. I got the glue boards out and checked them the next day. Nothing. And I saw the rat the next night, and I was like, okay, I'm going to get it. I'm going to flush him out. He was where the dog food was at. I put glue boards all over our kitchen floor, and like I tried to flush him out, and he dodged like every glue board. It was kind of like, it felt like Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner. Like he was just thwarting every plan that I had. And I spent about a week and a half with this rat in my house, just robbing my peace, and every day hearing him kind of scurrying in the walls at certain times of the day, seeing evidence of his activity via his little droppings around our house. And I'm like, oh, this is gross. This feels weird. I've got 2 small kids in my house. And I was like, gosh, what is going on here? And I found myself feeling outmatched by a small rodent, which doesn't feel good, as an adult. And I started telling people around me, I was like, man, I've got this rat in my house. I don't know what to do with it. I'm trying to figure this out. But I just kept rearranging the traps in my house. I kept trying to flush it out, and nothing I was doing was working. And as I got home, I think it was halfway through last week, my wife had beat me home. We were having dinner with some friends, and she goes, Andy, it looks like this rat had the fight of its life with one of these glue traps. And I'm like, all right, great. I finally got it. And I walk inside, and this glue trap is kind of ripped all across our house. There's little sticky glue pieces everywhere. And the glue trap is like wrapped around like my daughter's like favorite T-shirt that she has. And I'm like, there's no rat anywhere. I'm like, what is going on? And then I look at our couch, and our dog is sitting there, and she's got like glue on her face and on her paws and on her chest. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And so I spent until like 10:30 that night on our back porch, like giving our dog a haircut. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, this rat is ruining my life. And then as I'm shaving my dog, I'm like, oh, not only is there a rat in my house, I realize that as I'm shaving my dog has fleas. And so now we got 2 pests, and I don't know what to do here. And I found myself so demoralized. And as I was laying in bed that night, I told my wife, I said, I have no idea what to do here. And I don't want to do this, but I need to call an exterminator. And so I did. The next day, I called the exterminator, and they scheduled an appointment for the next day, and they came to the house. They set traps and everything. And what was amazing to me was just how much better I felt with that exterminator coming to the house, setting traps, and reassuring me, yep, hey, no worries. We'll get them. We'll be back in a couple weeks and make sure that we got them. But hey, the problem is taken care of. And it was interesting to me, the difference I felt before I called the exterminator and after I called the exterminator. See, for about a week and a half, it's not like I had hid this whole problem with the rat in the house. I had told people about it. I had had lunches with people where I'm like, man, I've got a rat in our house. Have you done anything about it? Or asked for prayer about it. Like I had talked about it. I had told people what a crazy week I'd been having. But even though I was telling people about it, I was still trying to manage it under my own understanding. I was going, I've done this before, and I should be able to take care of this. And then I end up with glue traps all over my house and all over my dog, and more problems than I realized that I had. But after I called the exterminator, after I reached out to somebody who was actually an expert in the field and actually knew what they were doing, the problem wasn't fixed, but I felt like my peace was there. And as I've been kind of reflecting on this experience this last week, it made me think about how often in recovery I can see a problem, recognize a problem, try to make efforts to change a problem, even bring other people alongside me in the problem, but yet still be doing it under my own strength. And then I also experienced the extreme discouragement and frustration that led to me being sick and tired of being sick and tired. And then the relief of actually going, hey, I have no idea what I'm doing here, and I need help. And I share that because I think oftentimes in our recovery, we hear about this idea of surrender and the importance of acknowledging the problem. But yet I know for me, the fear that still comes with truly admitting the problem is out of control. Because there's a difference between it recognizing a problem and recognizing that I'm powerless to control a problem. And as I was thinking about it, there's some lies that I was believing with this rat problem that I have believed before in my recovery and my own self-effort as I've struggled with stuff. And maybe you've dealt with this in your recovery as well. But there was this sense that I had whenever I saw that rat crawling down the wall and hearing it in my house. There was this sense of, I have to fix this. I have to be the one to make sure that this thing is eradicated from my life. And what's interesting is I remember that in my pornography addiction. I remember feeling, oh, this is a problem and I have to fix it. And it felt so real because I know with this rat, I know it's a silly example, but with this rat, I felt like I am responsible to fix this, and I need to make sure that this thing is done, because if I can't, what does that say about me? If I don't have what it takes to deal with this problem on my own under the resources and understanding that I have, what does that mean for me as a husband? And it's wild to think about this, but legitimately, as I was laying in bed that night after I had to shave the dog on the back porch, there was a thought of, man, am I just a terrible husband because I can't figure this out? It's amazing the shame that comes up whenever there's issues in our life that need to change, and maybe we don't feel like we have what it takes to change them. But it's even more than that. There was this sense of this problem is here, and I didn't feel like I needed to outright hide the issue that I had a rat. I had people in my life that I knew loved me and wouldn't judge me for having rodents in my house. But I felt like, hey, it is okay to have this problem, but it's also not okay if I don't know what to do about it. And I think one of the things that can happen in recovery, and I think I felt this in the beginning of my recovery journey, is that as I felt safe to share about what was going on in my life, my pornography addiction, my people-pleasing tendencies, there was a level of me saying, you know what? At first, it didn't even feel okay to admit I had a problem, but as I felt safety and I started sharing about the problem, the next level that I needed to face was, hey, it's okay to have this problem, but I feel like it's not okay for me not to know what to do about this problem. And then the lie that says, even if I'm failing, I still have to have the answer somehow. Okay, these efforts aren't working. This way to manage this behavior, this problem isn't working. I have to have the answer, because failing means that I'm a failure. And asking for help is just admitting failure. It's wild. I felt all of that with a rodent in my house. But I wonder how many times I've felt that in my recovery. Have you ever felt that in yours? Have you ever felt that feeling of there is an issue in my life and I don't know what to do with it. But saying that I don't know what to do about it feels so dangerous and so risky. I think that admission that we don't know what we're doing with this, I think that's a big part of us admitting we're powerless. You know, powerlessness is not that we don't have the ability to expend effort towards something. It's not saying that we're powerless to do anything in our life. It's admitting that I have been trying for years and years and years and years to manage this behavior, this problem, this hurt, this thing. And I don't know what I'm doing. My best understanding isn't enough. And I need a power greater than myself to help. I need help. That's a hard thing to ask. But it makes it a whole lot easier to ask when we can look at the truths we embrace, when we actually step into that surrender moment that comes with saying, I'm powerless to control this. We'll talk about that here in a second.
Hey Forever family. Being in a community of fellow strugglers who are committed to working their recoveries is essential to our success in having victory over our hurts, hang-ups, and habits. Every Friday night, we have a Celebrate Recovery meeting at Fellowship Fayetteville and Fellowship Rogers. At 6 p.m., we have a great meal for connection with other recovery brothers and sisters. Then we meet for large group at 7 p.m., followed by an open share group at 8. Same schedule on both campuses. Different teachers, different worship teams, but the same great experience. We'd love for you to join us this Friday night. It's never too late to start or start over again. For more information, go to fellowshipcr.org.
And we're back talking about the difference between surrender and self-effort. What does it look like for us to admit that we really are powerless over something and lean in to the reality that we don't know what we're doing when it comes to this issue and we need help. We talked about some of the lies that we can find ourselves in when there's issues in our life and it feels too risky to admit that we need help. I have to have the answer even if I keep failing in my efforts. That if I fail, it means that I'm a failure. That asking for help means that it says something terrible about me. That there's this shame versus guilt. That guilt says I have done something bad or there's something heavy in my life and I feel heavy about it. Shame says there's something bad in my life, therefore I am bad. Or I have failed in this way, therefore I am a failure. And we start attaching these worth and value statements. We start making agreements about who we are based off of the dysfunction that's going on in our life. But here's the reality. We can actually embrace surrender. Could it be the case that rather than my best effort has to be enough to fix this, could it be the case that it really is true that my best understanding just isn't working? Maybe if my best understanding did work, this would be fixed by now. But maybe my best effort isn't enough. Maybe my best understanding isn't enough to fix this on my own strength. You know? Like maybe that's the reason why we have mechanics in this world, because not everybody knows how to change an alternator in their car. Maybe that's why we have doctors, because not everybody can perform surgery on themselves. Maybe there are limits that I have. Maybe it's okay to have this problem and it's okay to not know how to fix it. Maybe I don't have to have the answer. Maybe somebody else has the answer. Here's the thing. One of the lies that I believed is that asking for help meant I was going to, maybe I'd still be loved by other people, but I was going to lose their respect. They're going to be like, oh, really? Oh, Andy, like, you don't know how to fix this? Oh, thought you did. Thought everybody knew. But hey, I guess you don't know how to do it, Andy. Don't worry, I'll help you. And it felt like, I was just like being looked down upon. That wasn't the reality, but like maybe the case is this, that maybe recognizing my limitations is actually an effort worthy of respect. Maybe me saying, hey, I am out over my skis is actually where somebody can go, oh, hey, that's really cool that you have that self-awareness, Andy. And maybe this. Maybe needing to ask for help is actually a part of being human. Think about that. Maybe us being needy is a part of us being broken human beings in this world. I think it is. I think there's a reason why when you look all throughout the Bible, God tells us again and again to lean into Him, to trust Him, to humble ourselves before Him, to ask for His help, to call upon the name of the Lord. Nowhere in Scripture does God tell us, hey, do this under all your own resources. Figure it out on your own. No. Jesus tells us in John 15, He says, I am the vine, you are the branches. Abide in me, and you will bear much fruit. And then He says, apart from me, you can do nothing. Apart from me, you can do nothing. There are things in this life that God has gifted us to be able to do, but none of us are perfect. And the reality is that life isn't found in our own effort. Life comes to me, not from me. And Jesus tells us that if we want life, we need to root ourselves in Him. But there was a passage that also came to mind too. This is in 1 Peter chapter 5, where he says this, God opposes the proud, but He gives grace to the humble. And that phrase right there, God opposes the proud, gives grace to the humble. Or, before, pride comes before the fall, but compassion is found in humbling yourself before the Lord. Or God opposes the proud, but gives favor to the humble. Like something along that lines, that theme of God opposing pride and giving grace to humility. That is found time and time and time again in the Bible. If you read through the book of Proverbs, you almost can't go a page without seeing some form of that. In fact, you can look at 1 Peter 5 and see this phrase, God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble. And you can also look in James chapter 4 and you see in there, God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble. There's something that God is telling us that in my prideful understanding of my life that says, I am strong enough that I shouldn't need a Savior, that is something that God rejects. That attitude, that approach to life, that approach to our problems and our recovery, that's not something that God blesses. But when we choose to humble ourselves, when we choose to say, God, I need you. God, I don't know what I'm doing here. God, help me. God gives grace to us in that place. He gives favor and love, but also grace can also be seen as the power to persevere over the brokenness in our life. It's through admitting weaknesses that our strength is found. That's what it says in 2 Corinthians. But it goes on in 1 Peter 5. He says this, humble yourselves therefore under the mighty hand of God, so that at the proper time he may exalt you. Similarly, in James, it says, humble yourselves before the Lord so that he will lift you up. But here's the kicker. Why can we humble ourselves before this God? In 1 Peter 5:7, it says this, casting all your anxieties on him, all your cares upon him, because he cares for you. You see, in my life, there's a lot of rats that come up. There's a lot of things that God has made me aware of in my life where I feel like, I hate that that's there, and I need to do something about it. And I may even tell other people, hey, I've got this going on, and I'm trying to do something about it. But yet I'm still trying to do something about it. I'm still trying to fix it. I'm still trying to do this or that. But yet God tells me, hey, bring that to me. You've had this going on in your life a long time. Could it be the case that if you knew how to do something about this, it would have been done by now? Humble yourself. Ask for help. And let me lift you up. And so, I know for me, that's been a good thing for me to kind of kick around in my brain. And just kind of the question is like, hey, what is the rat in my life right now? What's the thing that I'm noticing and seeing that maybe I've let other people know is an issue, but maybe there's a step that I know I need to take that I've been reluctant to take. Maybe I know I need to call my sponsor and have a conversation about this. Do I need to do that now? Maybe there's a person that I know has struggled with this and I need to ask them for help. Maybe I need to allow myself to feel how painful this is. I know that was part of me with that glue board and shaving my dog. I'm like, what am I doing here? I don't know what I'm doing with these glue boards, and now I've got sticky stuff all over my house. What am I doing? Do I need to allow myself to feel the pain that I'm causing myself in my cycle of dysfunction? And what does it look like for me to ask God into that place? You know, the crazy thing about our relationship with God, the crazy thing about the fact that he loves us is that he knows how broken you and I are. He knows all of the rats. He knows the way that we're trying to handle them on our own. Yet he loves us. You know, Jesus tells us in Matthew 11:28-30, come to me, all of you who are weary and heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. It's such a familiar passage for those of us that have been in recovery for a while, but it's such a profound one. And I don't think it's one that we need to move past. God in his grace sees us, knows us, and loves us. We are truly known and truly loved as we rest in the hands of God. All he asks us to do is to let him help us. And so for you, as you're listening to this, what does that look like for you today? And what does it look like for you to lean into that today? Well, appreciate this time with you. Hope this has been beneficial. And if you're listening to this and you're struggling with something and you've been reluctant to bring that to somebody or towards somebody, I just want to encourage you with this. I know it's a risk to bring those things out into the light. I know it's a risk to ask for help. But what if on the other side of that risk there really was healing? What if God really will meet you in that surrender? What if he really does lift us up when we humble ourselves before Jesus? There's been so many people that have walked before us that have experienced that reality. And could it be the case that you're no different than them? I think it's true. I've seen it real in my life, and I know it can be real in yours too. Well, hey, thanks for this time together. If you're looking for a safe place to lean into the grace of Jesus as we walk this road together, I want to encourage you, celebrate recovery every single Friday night at 7 o'clock at Fellowship Rogers. Fellowship Fayetteville is a great place to start. Come in, get plugged into a family of fellow strugglers that are willing to walk this road of recovery with you. and to help point you towards the healing and grace of Jesus as we surrender to Him. Love y'all.